Right, can you hear me? Yeah. So it's welcome to Wednesday. So it's your final talk today, final compulsory talk. So today we have Betsy and Charlie, who together make up Lounge Trip, and they're going to talk to you about their experiences leaving level 3 and carving out their careers in industry. If you want to take any pictures afterwards or anything, just make sure you hashtag IW23. And if in case of a fire, if the alarm goes off, it won't be a drill. So just make your way out to the nearest exit, out that way, and back up the ramp again. Yeah, follow the exit signs. There you go. Also, just as we're going through the session, if you could use my Teams account to text me any questions that you have if you don't want to speak them out loud, and I'll do them for you. So as you're going through, if you could think of questions, think about your own experiences and think about things that, that you can learn from these guys who have already got a huge amount of experience in what they've done and achieved. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to Betsy and Charlie. Can we have a round of applause, everyone?
Hey, hello.
Hello.
Thank you very much for coming. Like Jim said, I'm Charlie, and this is Betsy.
Yeah. If I lose my voice a little bit, please don't blame me. I've been ill for a week. I'm just gonna.
Okay, just before we kick off, this is just a quick disclaimer. Some of the slides in this presentation might have a photo on it that looks like.
If it works. Like this.
It looks like this. Some of the films that we're going to be talking about are like current, and they're currently being edited and in post-production. So if you see that photo, please could you not take any photos of that, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
There's only like 2 slides, though.
But the rest of it, feel free. If there's anything that you find interesting, you can take as many photos as you like.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is us. So, who are we? I'm Betsy. I'm actually not a ex-Confetti student. I did A-levels. But I am a BFI Film Academy alumni from last year, and I'm currently a fine art student, so I'm studying fine art at Nottingham College at the moment on a foundation course looking at uni. I study moving image and film, and I also write for Bird's Eye View, which is a charity that looks at levelling up women in the film industry, so I write some blogs for them, and I'm with Charlie in Lounge Trip.
Okay, I'm Charlie. I studied here on the film and TV course, started in 2019. Since leaving, I took part in the BFI Film Academy course at Broadway Cinema, and since then I've directed and been a part of quite a few short films. I'm now studying filmmaking at Nottingham Trent University, and I run Lounge Trip with Betsy.
Yeah.
So this is what I did at Confetti. As part of the course, we did our final major project, and I made a film called Notes from the Mirror, which was a lot of fun to make, and it won. Because we had an award ceremony at the end of the course, and it won some awards, which was very fun as a nice kickstart. It's good to everything that you make as part of your Confetti course is really useful to cling on to. So even though I made this quite a few years ago now, I still use it, and it's good to talk to people about when you're networking or trying to get jobs in the future.
So how did we get into film? It's pretty obvious. BFI Film Academy, we'll probably talk to it till our death. It's an intensive short course for 16 to 19-year-olds. So the Nottingham branch is based at Broadway Cinema. It's unofficially, quote, the best one in the country. There's about 20 students per year, and it's about a 5-month practical filmmaking course. So you get workshops from directors, producers, casters. You get to work with up-and-coming talent. It's just a really practical course.
Yeah, you also get to make a short film as part of the course, which we'll talk about what we made on the course later. But you also get to work with actors from the Nottingham TV Workshop, which is a really good experience to work with people who are at that sort of level to work on your films. The course is it's not free, but it's very worth the money, and I'd say it's a good price for what you're getting. It's £25.
It's like
£25.
And if you can't pay for it or you need travel bursaries, they cover travel bursaries. yeah, we learn an incredible amount on that course. There's also a BFI intern each year, which is really great. We'll get into that later. Get free cinema tickets.
Unlimited. You get unlimited tickets.
Free cinema tickets for about 5 months. So we really took advantage of that. Yeah, it was just really, really great.
And it's also good, we'll get into Broadway cinema a bit later, but it's just a really good community space, especially if you want to get into filmmaking or any sort of media industry. Broadway is a really good place because it's sort of a hub where everybody goes to. If you go to like the cafe bar in Broadway, you'll see a filmmaker sitting there having a cup of coffee.
You will. Yeah. If you ever want to network, go to Broadway Cafe Bar. So these are some pictures from our year. Just a lot of practical filmmaking. So on the left, we've got Stephen Shaw giving a directing workshop. So he did a practical workshop with us on how to use actors and how to communicate with actors properly. You got really great experience. You kind of get small bursts of really, really important information you wouldn't get otherwise. They just throw us into it, really. Yeah,
it's good. I think it's really good as a... either way, if you've been to Confetti, it's obviously really good. I mean, obviously you guys are. But I think it's a really good supplement to what you learn at Confetti. I think there's a lot of extra things and sort of like a lot of industry insight that you just get in a really short amount of time. It's really... I found it really beneficial, and I would recommend everybody applying for it.
Yeah, you've also got a real range of people. So you've got complete beginners. I didn't know how to use camera fully. I learned it through this course. I learned a million things through this course. But by the end, you're all a kind of cohesive team. I loved our year. It was a really great year. And we were trusted. We were treated like adults. It wasn't like we were just children. We were treated like industry professionals and kind of taught how to act like them. So, yeah. It's also fun asides. We went to a lot of screenings outside the course. We hung out a lot. Made a lot of friends. Yeah,
you make a lot of friends. Like Betsy said earlier, there's about 20 people in each year group, and because of that, you'll become really close as a group, and you're working on all your projects together, and you're just being in this space, and you have access to a lot of different studio spaces at Broadway, which a lot of people don't know. Broadway's got a lot of studio spaces that are really good to use, and they've got edit suites. So especially after... So I did the BFI course after Confetti. I did a gap year, and I found it really useful to have access to those spaces outside of formal education.
So the films we made, so my group was about 7 of us, and we did the birthday party, so I wrote and production designed it. It was about an apocalypse, kind of post-COVID metaphor stuff. But our film actually had a lot of practical issues, so it was shot over 2 days, but those 2 days were a month apart because our crew got COVID. As you can see in it, that is a real cake. I made 3 cakes. We had curtains go missing. But yeah, it was a really great experience. So even though I wrote it, I didn't direct it, I didn't edit it, and kind of watching that creative journey change. It's not necessarily the film I would have made, but I was really grateful to have done the process and even kind of accepted that that's not what the course is about. The course isn't about making an amazing film. It's about learning how to be a filmmaker and how to overcome those challenges.
So this is the film that I made on the course. It's called A Few Minutes from the Apocalypse. I directed this film, and I found the experience it was very challenging because it was with a writer who I'd met like a month before, and because they had submitted the script, and then I got handed it, and instantly we did a table read with the people in my group, and instantly after we finished reading it, people were saying, "Oh, what's your plan? What do you want to do with this film? What's your vision?" So it was a really challenge it was a really tricky challenge to overcome, of trying to quickly figure out quite important decisions that you need to have on set. And something I learnt on this film, because there was a lot of constraints of the film had to be a certain runtime, whereas the script was a lot longer than that, like a lot longer. So something I learnt from one of the tutors on the course, which I thought I'd tell you guys, is the audience, it's an obvious statement, but the audience hasn't read your script. So even though when you're editing, you might think this scene needs to be in because that was in my head all the time, the audience haven't seen your script and they don't in the nicest way, they don't need everything. So they have, like, what you're showing them, they will like it either way if it's good. So you don't need to include everything.
Yeah, the audience only know what you show them. So that's a bit of advice we've kind of taken through all of our projects, I would say. Yeah.
And then through part of the BFI Film Academy course, it's run by Ella Townsend, who's a local... She runs the course, but then she's also a local producer anyway. And through that, you can use her for references if you want to get onto other things. So after the BFI Film Academy course, there's then the BFI and NFTS residential, which, if you don't know, NFTS is the National Film and Television School, which is based in Beaconsfield in London. So as part of the Broadway course, I managed to get a place onto this residential, which was genuinely, if we're saying that the BFI course was really good, the NFTS course was insane. It was so much fun. So it's a 12-day course. Again, it's for 16 to 19-year-olds. And it's a 12-day residential. You get to go down to the NFTS school. You get to make another film, but this film's got a bigger... It's not necessarily a bigger budget. I think they're pretty much the same budget for the films that we made. But it's just a much bigger scale, and you're working with a lot more people. And as you can see in the bottom right corner, it's a very tiring experience because it's very long days. We're waking up at 6 a.m. and going to bed at midnight, and that's full on working all day. But I'd say it's the best experience ever.
Right.
So these are just some stills from the film. The film I directed this again, but I didn't write it. So again, it was a challenge, but because I'd had experience previously, it helped to sort of keep the momentum going. So this film was called Fluorescent Adolescent. It's about the AIDS crisis. It's about a young girl who's figuring out her sexuality, and she can't tell her mum, basically, is the general gist. But that film went on to be nominated for Best British Short Film at the Iris Prize LGBTQ+ Film Festival in Cardiff, which was insane. That was such an exciting thing because of part of the course, the course leaders submit your films to festivals for you, so it gets over the barrier, because some festivals, especially Iris, have quite a big price to submit. So that was very nice, and I got to go to Cardiff, which was really nice. And as a part of that festival, it's now on All 4. So if you type in Fluorescent Adolescent on All 4, you can watch my film. And then Short Stack, it was also in as well, which we'll get onto later, because that's a Nottingham festival that we think is really beneficial.
Yeah. So kind of what we've worked on since, I guess, working on other short films and networking. These ones you can't take pictures of. I mean, it's only 2 slides. So through BFI Film Academy, we met Lawrence, who was the intern on our year, but he was an alumni from about 2018, I want to say. Yeah, and he also went to Confetti, so he's like a few years ahead of us. But he's a really great guy. And he asked us to help on this short film, Beautiful Meadow. So we got called on. I did the production design for it. It was a massive step up. So the birthday party was one house. It was a lot of cake, but it was one house, one pretty small house. From where we shot. When we did Beautiful Meadow, I think I cleared out with the team 3 houses, including one massive Lenten, basically, mansion, which was kind of a hoarder's mansion, and it was supposed to look very empty. So it was a massive job, but it was really great. And we also worked on a lot higher of a budget. It wasn't a massive budget, but it was a pretty good budget. Yeah, and then I was down to be a production assistant on this film, which I was really excited about. And then through a lot of things that we don't really have time to get into, because it was quite a long situation. But the first AD ended up having to drop out, which I'm guessing a lot of people will know what a first AD is, but it's the first assistant director, so they're in charge of all like the schedules and that sort of thing. But they had to drop out of the project. So on the first day that we turned up on the set, Lawrence, the director, came up to me and said, "Charlie, do you want to be the first AD?" Which, that is quite a big step up from being a production assistant to being the assistant director on a 4-day... I mean, we were in Lincoln, we were in Beeston, we went everywhere. It was also a heat wave. we seem to pick days when it's either heatwave or freezing to film. Yeah, it was a massive heatwave. We met loads of really great people on it. Some Confetti degree students?
Yeah, so some of the students from the film technology degree course were on that film, and they've been really good to just have as networks throughout the projects we've worked on.
Yeah, loads of other BFI alumni. So bottom right, you first AD'd with Billy.
Who Billy, I think, if you're a first year, Billy's the year... No, if you're second year, Billy's just
year
left.
Above, yeah.
But Billy's so Billy was on the BFI course with us, and she's now gone on to... She's working on a Disney project in London at the moment, which...
Very secretive exciting. Disney project. But just really great experience. And then in December, we worked on Harm with Derry Shillito, which is a BFI funded short.
Yeah, so Derry used to be a tutor at Confetti. I think he was at Industry Week this morning. But I messaged him and also, like we said earlier, Broadway Cafe Bar. It's a good place to meet people.
It is.
So I met him in Broadway Cafe Bar, and I was saying, "What are you working on at the moment?" And he said he's working on this short film. So he got me and Betsy on to be production assistants on that film. But because of the experience we had, and then we realised that a lot of the Beautiful Meadow people were also on this film, we were as production assistants, but I'd say we had a bigger responsibility than a production assistant would usually have, because just sort of the way... I don't know how to explain it.
Just the way the shoot worked, and we said yes to things. We kept on asking, do you want something? Like, do you need this? We ended up sorting out loads of the catering. We were running around with cards. We were buying things. We spent £250 at Walk and Go. It was a really great shoot. It was really cool to work on something so high budget for a short. There's a lot of fancy cameras. There's a lot of very professional people. But there was also a lot of young people involved, a lot of people similar to our age, only slightly older. The intern from this year's BFI Film Academy was on it, Liv. So, it was just kind of a little network that we didn't expect to find on the film set, I guess.
Yeah. There was a lot of interesting things. Like we said, we spent £250 in Walk and Go. Not all money, so that was good. But there was a lot of things, just general things that you wouldn't expect, like when you're in a film course of what you're going to end up doing. We had to fix a printer. We just all sorts of things. So you just sort of have to be ready for anything.
Yeah. So just kind of going off of that and getting onto film sets, networking, make friends, not colleagues. That's what we would say.
Yeah, that's quite a big thing. The first few times we'd been to networking events, we found it really stressful, I think.
Yeah.
It's quite an intimidating thing to meet people, especially people that are above sort of your line of work. So what we've developed over going to a lot of these events is just make friends with people. People want to make friends and they want to make contacts. They don't necessarily want to get jobs instantly. It's more about having people that you can message on Instagram and just keep talking to them about what they're working on. And then later on you can say, I'm making this.
Yeah, so you've got Short Stack, which is based at Broadway. They do it every few months. It's for short films under 10 minutes. I'm also pretty sure they don't have a fee to submit, so no fee, which is great. A lot of students submit and they do networking afterwards where you can really get to know people. Just in a casual sense, you don't have to go in like, oh, if I don't speak to anyone, I'm not going to get a job. It's not even about that. It's just about if you want to find people to make films with and you don't feel like you have that strong of a network, it's really great for just that. It's similar to film societies. You don't have to be at uni to join them.
No, yeah, a lot of university film societies, they put on events like, especially the University of Nottingham Filmmaking Society put on 24-hour film challenges where you can, you go and you meet a team and then you've got 24 hours to come up with a script, write it, film it, plan it, all of that in 24 hours. So it's a really good challenge to get involved with. And yeah, so you don't even have to be, even if you don't go to University of Nottingham, you can just turn up. Yeah.
And I would also say if you do a gap year and people you know are going to university for film and you're like, I don't know any people the same level as me. Everyone seems kind of too high up, and all my other friends have gone to uni. People in those filmmaking societies, UON doesn't have a filmmaking course, but the people there are really passionate. There is a network of people, entry level and to more experienced, who want to make films and want it so much they've joined societies to do it in their spare time. There is a network there, I would just emphasise.
Yeah, and it's nice to have a more informal network. So when you go to things like Short Stack, these are people that have made sometimes BFI-funded short films. So going to a university society 24-hour challenge or something like that is just a good way to have a bit more fun with making films instead of it being so serious. Not that it's always fun, but, you know.
Yeah. There's also BFI Future Film Festival. So it's based in London, but there's loads of online events. It's the biggest youth festival in the country. Yeah,
it's a massive event, and a lot of the BFI short courses kind of lead into it as a progression route. So you can submit your films there, and then it's in London. They have awards at the BFI South Bank Cinema. Yeah, that's just a really good one. Just to because it's the biggest festival in the UK for young people, it's very competitive because so many people want to make films. But it's just a good one to keep an eye out if you think you've made something that's really special that you'd want to show on a big screen.
You also don't have to show stuff. There's loads of masterclasses. You've met loads of people online through masterclasses on it. It's not that you have to submit things. You can just go to talks. Just put yourself out there. If you're doing like a Zoom call or something, put your Instagram on it. Like, really push people to do it.
Yeah, there was a... so as part of the BFI Feature Film Festival, they do Zoom call masterclasses, and there was one that was on script writing, and even though everybody was paying attention to the masterclass, but in the comment section of that Zoom call, it was full of people putting their Instagrams. So I obviously did that to join in. It's like a good online network. And through that, I met a guy called Dylan Scott, who's a cinematographer based in Sheffield, and we ended up working on Fluorescent Adolescent together. So that's really good to just, like, somebody that you met on a Zoom call and then you end up making a film with them. It's really good to just seize every opportunity you can get.
Yeah. Then on to on-set etiquette. This is a massive part.
Yeah, so as we said earlier, when we have been production assistants, even though, like, some would say production assistant is an entry-level role, which it is, but it doesn't mean that you're not just making teas for people. If you put yourself into the film, you can really get a lot of experience out of it. So this is just our advice on if you're being a production assistant, or if you're doing any role, just like the etiquette that you should have on set. So the first one's being there. It's good to be on time. Yeah. If it says 9 a.m, maybe 8:30.
Yeah. If it says 7 a.m, don't go in. Well, you can go and just turn up. We've looked at schedules and been like, this is a really long day. This is really late. But you turn up and you know what goes really fast once you're there. And it's really great. Know your role is probably one of the things we got drilled into us the most at BFI. If you're in your role, stay in your role. It makes everything move so smoothly. But also know when you can step up and when it's appropriate to step up.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part of the next one, respecting the team. So a lot of the times sometimes when you're on a short film and somebody will talk to you, as they'll say like, oh, do you need help with that? But I think a big part of respecting the team is just knowing that people do know what their speciality is. If somebody's a cinematographer, they probably know how a camera works. So that's just a good one. And
also if people are stressed, don't be a dick if people are stressed. I don't know whether I can say that word, but be available. Just if you've got, there shouldn't be nothing to do really unless you're waiting around for a shot. If you've been given a smaller role and you're like, I'm not even going to bother, like I've done everything, I'm just a production assistant. Don't do that, I would say. Put your most into it because you can really prove yourself to people. That's how I would say we've gotten onto, like we've been invited onto bigger shoots, kind of feature shoots, from impressing people on these smaller shoots.
Yeah, so because of the harm one that we spoke about earlier, as part of that, when we were production assistants, we would go up to the first assistant director or Derry, who was the producer, and just say, Derry, mate, what needs happening? Yeah. What can we do? And even if it's just things like running to the shops and getting some biscuits, it might be that sometimes, but other times it was on a Wednesday night, which is like a big clubbing night. And because we were filming outside, Derry put me in charge of, what's the word? Like hoarding
drunk people.
Hoarding drunk people around,
Drunk
which was
people.
a very interesting experience, but it's something that I wouldn't have got if I didn't ask for what needs doing. I would have just been making teas all day. So
Yeah.
the more you ask, the more you get, basically.
Yeah, I would also say productions rely on production assistants as much as any other role. And if you're in that role, know your value. You are really, really valued by production. You're probably one of the most important people with team morale. If you're responsible for catering or making sure biscuits don't run out, people love you. If you go around to people and say, what do you want for food? You've got this budget. This is everything we're giving you. They love you.
Yeah, they really appreciate it.
They really do.
And also, you find at the end of the shoot, obviously, when people are going around, they're thanking everybody, but they really do thank the production assistants. A lot of the times, I think people assume that it's quite a thankless role. You're just walking around doing things for people, but it really is an appreciated thing to do.
Yeah.
Especially if your timing is well done.
Yes.
If you say if the catering has arrived on set and you need to inform the first assistant director, don't go up just as they're about to say action, because that's obviously never a good time to do that.
Yeah.
Know what's the right moment to talk to the right person. There's quite a big ecosystem on a set of who can talk to who at what time. So if you just sort of get the vibe of the room, and you can figure out when you should talk to the right person.
Yeah. Also, adding on to that, know when to shut up. Obviously, it's really obvious. Silence is very, very, very big appreciated thing. It's probably one of the things that gets people annoyed the most on sets if you're not. Obviously, it's a really fun thing, and you make friends, and you maybe mess around a little bit, but as soon as stuff is set in place, as soon as before action school, it's silence. It's
And
very serious.
Yeah, not even just when there's a shot. It's more like it's a very stressful, high pressure environment on a set. So just knowing when to shut up, not people like say if you've come on a set and you want to network and you want to tell people about this script that you've written. Sometimes it's not the best time to talk about this short that you've been working really hard on. Sometimes it's just about this film that you're making right now.
Like in this picture where you were all stuck on a hill in 30 degrees getting burnt.
With a horde of cows staring at you the whole time.
Yeah,
it's not really the best time to talk about.
Yeah, I was
what you're up
clearing
to.
out a house in the shade at this time, but I sympathise. But with that, even if it's hot or anything, get stuck in. Just get into it. You're going to be asked to do weird stuff, especially if you're in entry-level roles. You're going to be asked to tell people that they can't go into their houses yet because we're shooting a shot that they can't be in because we've got special extras who aren't public members. You've got to be really okay with talking to people you don't know.
Yeah, that and it is a thing you do get practice at, because especially when I was say like working on a first short film, I found it really tricky to go up to random members of the public and say, please can you not go down this street, especially because the public are really if they want to go down a street, they will go down the street. So it's good to learn how is the best way to sort of inform them of what's going on in a way that they're not going to kick off and moan at you.
Yeah, and to be fair, as soon as you've got a high vis, you've got a lot of authority.
Yeah, people love a high vis.
People love a high vis. I guess similar to that is have fun, it's exciting. Like, obviously we're being, like, there are rules, but it's really great. We wouldn't do it if we didn't love it. We also wouldn't do it in our spare time. I mean, we're both doing film in our courses, but doing film shoots, I remember the Derry shoot was straight after we had quite stressful periods of getting stuff due in. I was like, I don't know whether I have the energy to do this. And Charlie convinced me to do it, and I absolutely loved it. It's just a lot. Just say yes to opportunities if you can. Just say yes.
Yeah, use the opportunity. It's really good. This is a really, if you've managed to get onto a set, it's a really good opportunity, and it is the most fun. And like we said earlier, when you see people, especially in a small city like Nottingham, if you've met people on one set and then you see them on the next one, they respect you more because they go, oh, I recognise that person from that film. And then they're more likely to say, oh, I'm working on this, I need whatever. If you just talk to people about what you're into, and they'll get you on things.
Just use the opportunity, really. And I guess more on opportunities and support. Nottingham has so much support. There's also local support, not just in Nottingham, there's Sheffield, and there's national support. So Should just go through these.
Yeah, so, I mean, Confetti, you're here. There's so much opportunities. Your tutors and all the support staff, everybody is just so good to talk to. Like I said, when Derry was a tutor here and I've gotten so many work experience opportunities through him. Your tutors have contacts. If you want something that you know what it is, but you don't know how to get it, just talk to a tutor because they'll know.
Yeah, especially when people are guest tutors or industry professionals, they've got a foot in the door. Push that door open, basically, force yourself in.
Yeah. People always say that the film industry is a lot of knocking on doors, but it doesn't mean that you have to be the one knocking. Like, other people can do it for you. If you know somebody, they can get things for you.
Yeah. Then there's screen skills. So we did loads of COVID qualifications through screen skills, and it's really just a good hub to get a lot of information out of.
Yeah, screen skills are sort of like Wikipedia for film. So if there's a role that you're like, I've heard of that before, and somebody's asked me to do this role, but I'm not really sure how to do it. If you go on screen skills, they'll tell you what it is. Screen skills is also, we mentioned about Billy earlier getting on that Disney project. Screen skills do a traineeship every year where students and people trying to break into the industry can have a go at being on those bigger productions.
Yeah, BFI Film Academy, just to drill it in. If you're between 16 and 19, apply. Just do it.
It is genuinely, you will not, it is the best thing we've ever done.
You also
get
emails for life from Ella, who runs it, who, when we say these screen skills opportunities or these NFTS opportunities, it's because we've got emails about it. We get multiple emails a week. We left a year ago.
And when people talk about the film industry is full of secret group chats, it's not necessarily secret group chats, they're just BFI Film Academy group chats, especially for 16 to 19-year-olds. There's group chats where it's everybody in the country that's been on one of these courses can be on this group chat, and that's where you get so many messages a day of people going, I'm working on this, how can I need to get a group of, a team together who wants to be on it, and then you just get lots of roles that way.
Yeah. Film Hub Midlands, it's kind of later down the line. You don't have to go to London to be a filmmaker. There are funding things here. They do grants. They help with funding. Film Hub Midlands is based at Broadway.
Which is down the road.
It is down the road.
You can get funding down the road.
Yeah. I mean, Broadway is a cinema, but it's also... Filmmakers have got offices there. Film Hub Midlands is based there. There's a million things based there. There's studios downstairs. They're doing workshops, practical workshops. If you're over 19, they're doing film courses. You've done screening.
Yeah, they do. They do theory courses. So if you're interested in film history or just a specific aspect in film, they do seminar sessions that they run for 9 weeks, and you can just go with a group of people and learn more about a particular topic. Yeah.
Young Creatives Awards.
Yes, Young Creatives Awards is a Nottingham-based awards festival thing. You might have already been told about it, but it's definitely really good to apply. I think the deadline closes soon, so if you've got any projects that you want to submit to that, you can win prizes. It's just a fun thing.
Yeah, that's just the Broadway logo. As we said, just go to Broadway. It's better than the average chain. It's only £5 for tickets for under 25s. Independent filmmakers. There's filmmakers in the cafe bar. They have really great guests. They've got really great stuff for under 25s. Got really great programming for under 25s, which we'll get into.
I don't know if any of you went. I know Richard Graham did a talk at this Industry Week, and he did a talk at Broadway a few months ago. So it's Broadway sort of do it's not as intensive as Confetti's Industry Week, but every so often they will have a guest speaker coming in, and it's just really good to have that kind of masterclass.
Yeah.
It's just, and also you get to talk to them. You get to the bottom and.
Yeah, and they do the BFI scene masterclasses as well. So Christina Newland, who's a really well-acclaimed film critic, she's been in the iNewspaper. She has interviewed amazing people. She did a masterclass on how to get into film journalism. It was only £5 to go to. And you can speak to them. You can kind of get contacts from them. It's really great. I'd say another really great place that's got opportunities, obviously, it's not just Nottingham. Sheffield Doc Fest does youth juries. So every single year you can kind of, if you're into documentary, it's a really great way to go there. A lot of big documentaries screen at Sheffield Doc Fest every year, and obviously it's only about an hour away. And they do volunteering.
Yeah, they're always looking, every time that Sheffield Doc Fest is on, they're always looking for students or young people that sort of help run the festival. So even if it's things just like being an usher and helping people get into the screens, it's a good opportunity to get.
Yeah. Then the one next to that is the Film and TV Charity. So it's a national charity, and they do supply grants for people if you're struggling to be a filmmaker, but they also provide mental health support. They've got a helpline, and they're doing loads of research into how people in the film industry can have better mental health support, because obviously it's quite an intense career choice, and it comes with long hours, it comes with a financial uncertainty. So it's just a really great support system to have there, and it's a national one. So yeah, it's just accessible over the internet, and I think they're based in London.
Yeah, and then finally we've got Flat Pack, which is based in Birmingham, I think.
Yeah.
And they do a lot for film programming, which we'll get into later, bits like cinema curation and that kind of thing. They run an annual course at Broadway called Build Your Own Film Night, which I was lucky enough to be a part of, which was really fun. We'll get more into that later. But they just do a lot. They do funding and a lot of just ways to get young people into the film industry.
Yeah. Then kind of, I guess, for us, how to get ahead. When you've got tutors or access to people, ask for advice. Just ask people. Don't be afraid to ask questions you might think are silly. Yeah.
With building a network, when you leave somewhere like Confetti or you finish any course, if you think about it, everybody in that course is leaving with the same qualification or same experiences. So what have you got that's on top of other people? So building a network is a really good thing, because you can go, I've got this experience and this qualifications, but I also know people. And say, for example, if you know somebody that has equipment, people will hire you because in the nicest way possible, they'll hire you because you know somebody who has kit and everybody wants equipment. So it's just really good to know as many people as possible.
Yeah. Be nice. Just don't be horrible to people. It can really, I would say, it can really hinder you being on sets. We've definitely had talks about people we wouldn't work with, or people we know on the set who said, I'm not working with that person again. It was horrific. You find your people. Some people may click in different ways, but just be nice to people. It really goes a long way when, I guess, film's a profession where you're relying on connections and you're relying on people liking you. It's a team profession. It's not just you.
Next, don't gatekeep. This one's quite specific for, say, if there's a producer who asks you, oh, I'm working on this film next Friday, can you come and be a production assistant on it? If you can't go, that doesn't mean you go, I'm sorry, I can't go, end of conversation. If you know somebody else who you know is free next Friday, recommend them, because it will really help them get ahead, and that's quite a good thing. Because there's quite a new, when we've had talks at Broadway with people like Ella and those kind of people, there's a new thing of, it's supposed to be a community industry, it's not supposed to be this whole idea of getting ahead, beating people, it's competitive. If you know somebody, help them out, because then they'll help you out another time, because they'll go, oh, that person was really nice, they got me a job.
Yeah, and get involved. Get involved if it's something you think you'll be interested in. I'd also say at this point, you're not going to see money. You're not going to see money. You might see expenses. We've not been paid for film jobs, and I'm just being pretty blunt about it. But it's really fun. Obviously, there's a point where you decide, is it worth having money or not? But when you're in entry-level roles or you're straight out of Confetti, if someone big's like, do you want to be a production assistant? Just say yes to it, I would say. Yeah.
I think, but also that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think especially when I was at Confetti and when I got told that you might not get paid straight away, I was like, that's awful. Or the whole thing, you're here because you want to get a job. But it's a very highly specialised industry that's all about people that you know and that sort of thing. So, you don't need to get paid straight away, because it's really just enjoy the process of getting to know people and get to know your people especially, and then the money comes in bits. I think as well, if get involved, don't necessarily get involved with specifically what you want to do. Like, say if you want to be a cinematographer, don't just go to cinematography courses, go to sort of everything.
Yeah.
So like I said about the flat pack course at Broadway, I went to that knowing nothing about film programming, and it actually turned out to be a really like influential part of like my career so far.
I'd also say if you want to direct, you've got to accept that you're not going to get places on film sets when you say, oh, I just want to direct. I mean, I want to direct, but I've done production designing, I've done like production assisting, kind of bit of ADing, but it's also kind of, you've got to accept those smaller roles because it's just kind of how it works. And what's quite fun is that once you find your group of people, you can make stuff and none of you are getting paid, but because you're all similar ages or similar things, it doesn't feel exploitative because you're just having fun and you kind of build it up, and then obviously people make a living out of it. So,
but in the same sentence, don't let yourself be exploited.
Oh, don't get exploited.
Yeah, if you notice that everybody else on a production is being paid and you're the only person that's not, that's probably not a good thing. There's also a lot of rules on hours. So if you're being forced to work from 5 a.m. till midnight, that's probably not healthy, especially if you've not had a good break.
Also, if you're not paid, I'm not saying walk off a set if it's awful, but you're losing the experience. But if you're in a bad situation with anything like that and you feel you're exploited or the hours are too long, I've said to people when I've not been being paid, I've been like, I need to leave at this certain time. This has been in place before I agreed to this job. And they're like, okay, thank you so much for helping.
Yeah, because people are if you go on set for half an hour, people will still say thank you because you've still done something.
Yeah.
People really like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So next is on to our kind of current projects. I guess what we're doing at the moment. I'm studying fine art, so I'm looking at doing a fine art degree, but I explore film in the sense of a fine art lens. So it's a lot more, I'd say, experimental, less linear narrative, but it's really fun. So I've made a series of films. I've incorporated poetry. I've used my iPhone and I've used a really fancy camera. It's really fun just playing around with that. But I would say what I've learned is after having that BFI kind of experience, I did all of these shoots. I mean, if you don't count, the person at the bottom right is my dad, so he's not actually an actor. If you don't count actors, I've only had help on one of them, which was Charlie, who was helping me camera operate. But you get to have a go at all the roles. You get to, if you want to do these kind of micro shorts, you can do it. I did most of them in a couple of weeks, like filming in one day, and then I think the one bottom right sweat I filmed for an hour. It was literally my dad sweating. It's a bit grim. But you can make films with limited resources. The top two I filmed on my phone. You can do it. And if you want to kind of explore your styling, if you're too embarrassed to share it with other people, you can make films by yourself and they can still look coolish, I would say.
And they don't need to be a part of a course. Like, it doesn't need to be a teacher saying to you, oh, I want you to make this film, it has to be 3 minutes. Like, when you're at home, just make something.
Yeah.
Because it's fun.
Also, because I do fine art, there was no provisions on how long any of my films had to be. I don't have limits. Not in that sense. I don't have provisional limits I've got to hit. All I've got to do is hit a deadline and show my process. So it's not like this film needs to be 5 minutes. It's this film needs to show what you say it's going to show, basically. So, yeah. On to yours.
Yeah, so these are my current projects that I've made at university so far. Like Betsy, I've just started doing some experimental films as part of my course. So that's the top left one, which is called Charged. And then using an actor from the Nottingham TV Workshop, we made a sort of liminal backrooms kind of horror film, which is called Exposure, which is about a girl that gets consumed by a camera.
Yeah.
But that was really fun to make.
She was the actor on my film, and you were really smart. When we did the auditions at TV Workshop, you got all their, like, Instagrams, not in that way. And you could contact her because she knew you were on the course, so... Yeah,
so, like, even though I was on a university course, we were supposed to just act in the films ourselves, but because I'd known this actor from BFI, I just messaged her and say, hey, I'm making this film. We'd like to make it better than it like the best it can be. So do you want to be on it? And she said yes. And then we've made quite a lot of films on this course so far. But at the moment, we're literally like earlier today we've been editing our documentary called Umut, which is about the Turkey-Syria earthquake and a charity that's gone over there to support the people there.
I guess kind of onto who we are in lounge trip sense. So I guess just before we get onto ourselves, what is film programming and what is the film programming scene, I would say, Nottingham?
Yeah, so if you don't know, film programming is, initially when I heard about it and I went to this course at Broadway, I assumed it was something like coding, that sort of thing. So I wasn't massively interested in it. But film programming, if you don't know, is like the curation and festival side of it. So it's like talking to filmmakers and saying, hey, we want to show your film at a cinema. Can you do that? And it's all like the licensing and side of things. Yeah. So it's really interesting to know, as a filmmaker, how your films then go on to play at festivals. And also it's an exciting thing to put on those kind of events.
Yeah, and also I guess there's different levels of film programming. So you've got kind of standard what films are coming out right now, but we work in curation and kind of special film programming. And there's loads of film programming groups in Nottingham. So we've got Kino Club, Mayhem Film Festival, Nottingham Horror Collective, and Jackie Treehorn, who screen at Broadway. Jackie Treehorn also screens at Mammoth, but they've got loads of different specialisms. So Mayhem and Nottingham Horror Collective look at horror and cult films. Mayhem kind of horror, cult, sci-fi. Nottingham Horror Collective is also kind of about putting women at the forefront of horror. They also do a zine. They're really great. And Kino Club kind of, I don't know how to...
Kino Club do like cult films. They show loads of different things. But the thing is about all these collectives is when Broadway puts on a film, if you look on Broadway's website and they're putting on a film and you see one of these logos, they're really good to go to. Because they're curated and they're more sort of like an event, a lot of people will go to it. Like we said, Broadway is sort of the hub for filmmakers. And these are sort of like the nights out for Nottingham filmmakers. So if you go in there, especially if it's packed out, you'll see a lot of people, and then everybody goes in the bar afterwards and has chats. So they're really good places to meet people.
There's also Fortune and Glory Film Club, who do a lot at Nonsuch. They're kind of queer, inclusive, fun, immersive cinema. That's how I would define it.
I went to they did a screening of Shaun of the Dead, and we had cardboard records that we had to throw at the zombies on the screen. So it's just really fun. It's really fun to know what you can actually do with an event. It's not just play the film, sit back and watch it. Like, you can have immersive elements.
Yeah. Then you've got Not So Bad Movie Club, which shows at Annie's Burger Shack downstairs. They've started doing Not So Good Movie Club, actually. They've just shown, they typically show bad films. They've been showing like Spice World. They're showing some crazy films. Then the Loft Movie Theatre Knots is at Savoy. And also, I'll just say about all of them, all the tickets are pretty cheap. Screenings of the Savoy, Annie's Burger Shack, and Nonsuch are all normally pretty cheap. They're probably slightly more than Broadway tickets, but Broadway tickets are always £5. So I guess the question is, how does Lounge Trip slot into this scene?
Yeah, so we started around... We've been doing it since probably July last year, but we kicked off properly in February, so just last month. But it's a collective created by young people for young people, so that's quite important for us that we're at the same stage as everybody else, and we want to create like a community of filmmakers and film fans that can like all come together and watch films.
Yeah, I mean, we're both 19, so we want to show films our peers like. They're aimed towards young people under 25s. It's also aimed towards kind of all ranges of experience. So if you want to be a film critic and you like seeing films with people, it's great for that. But also if you've got no experience and you just want to go to the cinema a bit more, we're trying to show accessible films. We keep on calling them gateway films, 1 degree off of classics. So
we're not going to show Pulp Fiction, but we will show like things slightly more, I don't know what the word is, quirky. We want to show quirky films.
The
things
quirky is
that are,
awful. Quirky.
It's quirky, okay. But so we've shown a few films that we'll get onto later. But at the bottom there, we were recently interviewed by the Left Lion, which was a really nice opportunity to just talk about like what we've been up to with Lounge Trip.
It's been going pretty well, luckily. So technically we weren't Lounge Trip at this point, but it basically is Lounge Trip.
So as a part of the BFI Film Academy course, with all of the free tickets that we got, the programming team at Broadway noticed that we were probably going more than we should have been.
I think we were exploiting the ticket rule. I think we went to see, I want to say it was around 35 films from about October 2021 to March 2022.
I mean, we were going like twice a week and just getting free tickets. But as a result of that, they noticed we were going so much, and they said, we really want to get more under 25-year-olds to go to Broadway. Would you guys like to put on a film? So we put on Portrait of a Lady on Fire, which if you haven't seen it, it's a really good film.
It's the best film.
I think it's on Netflix. Please watch that.
Best film in the world. But as well as that, we realised through doing this that we wanted to kind of have bigger elements. So we actually made a zine which had loads of local young female artists in it, because the film revolves around female artists, and we wanted to kind of show non-professional artists and kind of give them a step up. We were looking at applications from people that we found through Instagram. This was before we even had Lounge Trip Instagram. It was just me and Charlie shouting on our socials, please apply. Looking at people who want to go into art, and Beth, who works on this event with us, did a really lovely lino print, and we had a really successful art stall. So I guess from this screening, it kind of made us realise that we wanted to formalise it. This was it was off the back of BFI Film Academy. It was a BFI Film Club takeover, so we had funding for it.
Yeah, and I think we called the group Unnamed Undefined Collective.
Yeah, it was awful.
Which is a rubbish name, because nobody knows who you are. So then we went back to the drawing board, and we came up with Lounge Trip.
Yes. And then I guess we started pitching for screenings, so the way we pitch, we had a pitch meeting 2 days ago, and it's pretty similar. It kind of starts with what films do we love. We've got varied taste. Also, kind of people from our BFI group pop in and out of Lounge Trip, so they have if they're at uni, they kind of pop in and help with stuff, but it means they can give us ideas. So we try and pick films that everyone likes. Also, what hasn't been seen enough. So 1 degree off of classics. We want to show you films you might not have seen, but you definitely should see. And then...
it's also really good to know what's risky and what's safe. So especially at Broadway, they usually have an idea of what kinds of films they will and won't show, and we like to push that a little bit. But it's just good to keep an eye on what films we think will get young people excited to go to the cinema, because that's the main point of it.
As we've got a kind of running joke that we're not going to show Gummo, despite one of our friends, James, who's kind of in the collective, begging us.
Yeah, Gummo, if you don't know, is a very disturbing film, and that's probably a bit further than what we'd like to show.
Yeah.
But around that sort of we want to show those kinds of films.
Yeah, and then I guess on the end is what extra elements can we add. So a big part of Lounge Trip is giving people a step up. It's also about us being filmmakers doing film programming. It's about promoting artists. We've had chats about having writers in to do pieces on films, doing poetry. Our most recent screening, we had local filmmakers screen their films. It's kind of, how can we give people a professional kind of platform that they're not going to get another way? Yeah, I think it's also, if a cinema, say for, this is quite specific to programming, but if a cinema's given you a screen, take advantage of that big room that you've got. They've given you a slot of time, and they've given you an audience. So if you've got a short film that somebody has made, you can show it, because you've got an audience to watch it, so you might as well. Yeah. And then I would say just what's been really integral to us is social media. So use Instagram and Twitter. It's kind of the best way we connect with people, not just with film, but with film programming. I kind of do the social media, we do it together, but I I manage social media, and it's a lot of just me posting things and writing captions, but you would be surprised at the impact that it actually has practically.
Yeah, so for our most recent screening at Broadway, we did Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and we were initially in screen 3, which if you've been to Broadway, it's their second smallest screen, and that's what they gave us
it's like 70
initially.
people, which sounds quite big, but it's not actually that big.
Yeah, but then because of the social media, this is how integral social media is to these kind of things. We sold out their screen 3 in less than 2 days.
Yeah, it was over the weekend. The tickets went on sale on Friday, and by the Monday, they said, oh, we've upgraded you to screen 1 because it's selling so well.
Yeah, which that was a big challenge, because then screen 1 is around 250 seats, which is a lot. It's a big task, but this is how important social media is, that because of that, we were not only able to sell out screen 1 eventually, which was a big accomplishment, but also bringing in a lot of under 25-year-olds, which Broadway doesn't usually have that kind of audience. So we had around 70...
It was like 70% of the audience were people who were under 25. So, yeah, it was great. Do not underestimate social media. Really don't. Obviously, it's a double-edged sword, social media, but I would say for filmmaking, it's really great. We've both got personal Instagrams, we've both got professional Instagrams. And also, I would say if you want to meet... I guess higher up people, more professionals, I would say make a Twitter profile as well. Obviously, we've got less followers on Twitter, and it's less our audience, but it's actually it's more casual to follow people on Twitter. So I followed a film programmer at Sheffield for young audiences yesterday on the Ladship account. She just followed us back, just because it's more casual to follow people on Twitter for adults, but not adults, but they've got the power, basically, I would say.
Instagram's better for people our age. Twitter's better for industry people. Yeah,
industry people. But yeah, talking of social media, so for Eternal Sunshine, we commissioned 4 artists to create work, and we actually found them through Instagram. So we use Instagram. We've got a link tree. We directed them from our Instagram to our link tree, which then directed them to a Google form. And we had loads of submissions for art, and we also had submissions for filmmaking. But yeah, we got some really amazing prints done. This is only a few of them.
Yeah, we were really happy with the artwork that we got. So we put a call out, and then we did, for this we actually did interviews, because we got quite a lot of responses, which was really nice. So we had a chat with the artists and told them the film, and we said, what sort of thing would you like to make for this screening? And they pitched the sort of ideas, and then we whittled it down and chose these artists. And then they got to sell their work with us at the event, and they got to make all the money from it. So it's really good for us to... we really like, creating like a space. We had this art stall, and it's good to give artists a chance to sell their work, especially because a lot of them were at our age anyway. And if you think working in films is tricky to make money, working in art is even harder. Yes, I've decided to do both. So, I would also just say the kind of professionality we had with contacting artists. We had separate WhatsApp group chats for each artist. We had contracts. It was a lot of stuff we learned in BFI, not to like say it again, name drop again, but you should apply. But it was a lot of kind of professional stuff we email professionally. Even though it's people our age, you need to be professional, you need to be accessible, but there's a real importance in learning how to email properly, learning when to message people, having deadlines. I mean, one of the artists that we ended up, we weren't biased, but one of the artists that we hired for this was one of our friends. But even then, we weren't just messaging them the way that we usually would. We were messaging them professionally and doing emails. Yeah, they messaged us personally, and we said, no, use the group chat. I know it's annoying, use the group chat. But it means we've got a copy of stuff. But it was a really great experience. There's just some pictures from the screening. It was Valentine's Day as well, which was quite cute. But we had a blast, really. Yeah, and it was really good. So since then, like literally the day afterwards, we got an email from Kate, who works for the programming team at Broadway, and she was like, we really want to have you guys back. So we had just been in yesterday? Was it yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. The days just blur into one. But we went in to talk to her about what film we want to show next. So hopefully we'll have another event soon if you keep an eye out on the Lounge Trip socials. Yeah, I think
that is everything from us at the moment. Yeah.
But yeah, if you've got any questions, please feel free to ask those.
And thanks for listening for us ramble for quite a while. And I would say follow us on Instagram and Twitter. If you've got any, I don't know, if you've got any inquiries, anything to do with film or filmmaking, you can DM us or you can email us at loungetripcollective@gmail.com. To be fair, if you DM us, we will tell you to email us, but...
Yeah, it's quite a big thing for us to... we're not just putting on film screenings. It's quite important for us to create like a community aspect of Nottingham. That's like why we really wanted to come here today, to talk to young people that are interested in film.
Yeah.
So if you do message us, we will reply. And if we don't know the answer to the question, I think we know enough people that we can give you a contact if you need somebody, so we can help you out.
Yes.
But yeah, just get in touch.
Thank you, guys. That was amazing. Well done. Just got a couple of questions to go through, if that's all right.
Yeah.
Jace, you had a question which you put on Teams. Do you want to ask it, Jace, or do you... Yeah.
How would you personally approach someone you don't really know? Yeah, how would you approach someone you don't really know, and how would you like ask them if they want to work on a production or sort of set?
Yeah. So yeah, that's something we've both had to do like quite a lot of times.
Yeah.
I think it definitely helps having a say like the basis in like the BFI Film Academy that we spoke about. But say if you're going in cold, you don't know this person, how are you going to do it? I try and make it casual. So if you just go, hi, I think it's good to compliment somebody's work straight away. So if you know somebody that's made something that you really like, if you message them and you go, hi, I really like this film, and be specific about it. Say what you like about it.
Yeah.
I really like this film. How can I'd love to get involved in your next one. And sometimes it could be as simple as that.
Yeah, I would also say that the more you ask, the easier it gets, because the more experience you get, the more people you'll know. So I didn't know Derry on this project, and I got onto it through Charlie. So now I've got a personal contact with Derry, but it's about, if you stay in Nottingham, keeping that network, because the network's pretty, it's pretty big, but it's pretty easy to get into. And once you've met a few people, you will meet a lot of people. I would say it's a pretty quick way to get your way around, if that makes sense. So it might be scary the first few times, but it gets a lot easier once you've just kind of asked that question.
Yeah, I noticed that like I'd ask somebody, I'd be really nervous to ask them because in my head they're really like high up and they're really professional. And then you get onto a set with them and you notice that all of your friends are also on the film, or like people that you've worked with on other things. And then it becomes less scary because you can also, the more people you ask, the more people you know. And then when you ask the next person, you can go, I want to work with you. I also know your friend. And they'll go, oh, sure, if you know my friend, then you can work with me.
I'd also say you realise once you get onto a set that people who are a lot older than you, or you think are a lot more professional than you, if you act like a professional, they will treat you like a peer. I guess before we did the shoot with Lawrence, we were like, oh, he's our intern. Like, oh, I don't want to be really inexperienced at it. And actually, we slotted in really well. And because of the experience we'd gotten, and because of how hard we worked, we felt like peers, really.
Well, yeah, like we're basically in his friend group now, even though we're quite a lot younger than them. But it's just through those connections.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Has anyone got any other questions that you want to ask? Feel free to chime up. Could be a random thing. Don't be shy. Okay. I've got a question for you. So, with the students and where they're at the moment, a lot of you guys are thinking about, does my show reel matter? How am I going to use that? How am I going to kind of promote myself? Where do you guys stand on sort of show reels? Have you used them much? Have you put them together? How's it work for you?
I don't have one.
Neither do I.
Yeah.
I've never. This is not to say don't edit one. I think they're really useful. So if you've been encouraged to do that, definitely do, because they do help. I've never needed one, probably purely because of what we've spoken about. Like talking to people I found really effective. And if you've got a YouTube channel and you've got films that are on another person's YouTube channel that you've worked on, send them to people. You don't need to send a minute-long compilation of all these nice shots that you've done. People want to see. I think what I like, because also like say when people I know have sent me their work, I like it when somebody sends me a full film, because especially if they're saying I want to direct, showing shots isn't necessarily directing, because directing is about the whole process of the entire film and how it flows together. So I really like I just like watching a film. I don't need to see a little bit of it.
Yeah.
So have you? Sorry, Betsy, you were going to say.
I was going to say the only time I've had to create a showreel is for university applications, and also I would say like some of the roles you're in. I guess if you're doing something like production design or something, like the final cut of something might not be the best way to showcase your skills. It's more about the experience you've got, and you say, I've worked with these people. Yeah, I would say showreels aren't everything.
But
Yeah.
they are cool.
Yeah, they're cool, but they're not. It's not going to make or break your career if you don't have a showreel.
So, Betsy, you're particularly interested in production design, aren't you? From an art point of view, you've done it as a role a few times.
I would say I enjoy it. I want to direct, but sometimes you've got to compromise, and I really enjoy doing it, and you can't get onto loads of sets by saying I want to direct.
Yeah, so you use it as like a step into something, maybe, get some experience.
Yeah, but also because I do art, it's fun. I really like the visual side of it, so yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just want to come back to something you said earlier, Charlie, and I think it was just your side, Charlie, actually. But how did that opportunity come about with NFTS? How did you hear about that?
So it was actually a part of the BFI Film Academy course. We heard it through that. So we've said this probably 100 times, but please do apply. It is genuinely, you will not regret it. But yeah, so through that, Ella told us about the thing. You don't necessarily need to have gone to the Broadway course to get onto the residential, but because they always ask for examples of work and references from an industry person, and because Ella is a part of the BFI Film Academy anyway, if you get a reference from her, it makes it 10 times easier to get onto it. Yeah. So I think in our year group of 20 people, about 7 people got onto the residential, which
it was insane.
Yeah, which was the most of any city's BFI Film Academy in the country. So that shows how we're really lucky to be in Nottingham, because we've got the best BFI.
Yeah, I regret not applying, but I had A-levels, and it was all of Easter break, so I didn't think it was wise, but I really regret it.
That's a really good opportunity to get that, through, again, the BFI Academy, which I think, it's not overstating to say that it's really benefited you both, hasn't it? Yeah. It's
got bursaries as well. It's like dependent on income, but it's, I can't remember how.
Oh yeah, I should have said that earlier.
A lot of stuff has bursaries.
Yeah.
I would say that a lot of stuff for young people has bursaries at the moment. It's really great.
Yeah, the cost of the residential should be about £3,500. You never actually know that until you're on the course, because nobody's actually going to pay that much. The most somebody, when I was on the residential, had to pay was £400, but their parents were loaded.
Yeah, your family income has to be over like 85k or something.
Yeah, so when I went on the course, I got to go completely free, which was really nice, to have that opportunity to use all this equipment.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you. Right, last opportunity, guys. If you've got any questions about anything, particularly about, leaving college and moving on, particularly if you're not going to uni. Last chance. Yeah, Logan, go on.
I know you said...
Yeah, we really can't hear.
I know you said, make short films in your spare time, and obviously you could submit them to festivals, but what else would you suggest to get them out there? Would you suggest uploading to YouTube, or is there another platform?
I would say... definitely get a separate Instagram. If you use Instagram, if you hate Instagram, just use it for a professional level and shout out your stuff and link it to a YouTube, or obviously Reels. I mean, are they good or are they bad? But they've changed how video can be viewed on those platforms. Okay. I would just say post it. It doesn't matter how many people watch it. If you talk to people like professionals or stuff, they're going to look at your Instagram, they're going to look at your social media now. It's really important. Just post it, I would say.
I'd say another thing, obviously it's good to submit to festivals, but a lot of them do have a paywall to get behind if you want to submit. But things like we mentioned Short Stack, that's completely free.
Yeah.
And there's no prizes, there's no competition element of it. They're literally just showing short films that people have made. So as well as putting it on YouTube, I'd always, if you've made something that's under 10 minutes, submit it to Short Stack, because it's down the road.
Yeah, festivals aren't the be-all and end-all at this time. not saying like you got very lucky.
Oh yeah, I got
like,
massively lucky.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys. Harvey, you got a question?
No, I got it. Yeah. How when you are making your own films how often do you think you'd get writer's block when you're coming up with your ideas, if you end up doing so?
What was that? Was that about writer's block? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I really struggle with writer's block. I think I think everybody does. It's not an uncommon thing.
Yeah. I've said I'm going to write a script for about a year. Yeah, it happens. But also, because you're young and you're at this point, you can, I would say, use your friends. And if you've got a kind of round of ideas, sometimes you won't always do the idea you want to do, but it will let your brain start to get ticking. You also can just have a little bit of an idea. You don't need to write an entire thing. Someone can help you write it. Use your network of people, I would say.
Yeah, I think also the way, every time I've written a script, the way I try and think about it is, I know this isn't true, like it's not true, but imagine that the script is already written by somebody else, and every idea you get is like that person sliding you a little note to say, oh, this is what the script's going to look like. So if you just take all those little nuggets of ideas and you put them together, you find that the script actually does just happen. I think that's a good way to get over writer's block, is to pretend it's not you. Because it's quite, I think I get quite anxious writing a script because I think, oh, it's me that's writing this. Whereas if you pretend in your head that somebody else is doing it for you, it just helps. I don't know why, but yeah.
I also do like, those crazy detective walls where they've got ideas. I just write down single words and I put them on blue tack and I move words with characters and see how those dynamics work, and that really helps me to have it visually, like have physical flashcards, put them on your wall, move them around, and even if you've got block at the moment, look at them every now and then and something might just click. Yeah.
Okay, guys, that's wonderful. Thank you for your advice and the insight into what you've achieved and done. Oh, sorry, Steve. Let's go. Oh, cheers.
Charlie, you said you had a gap year in between university, I think. What did you do in that gap? Did you do work or did you do like home recordings and stuff?
Yeah, so that was actually a really big thing. When I was in second year of Confetti, I was genuinely very stressed about that. I really didn't think I was ready to go to university yet, and I really wasn't. That was a part of the reason why I applied for BFI Film Academy, was because I was like, I've got this gap here, I know I want to make films, but I don't know enough people to just start making them. So I thought I'd apply to this course. So if you're thinking of taking a gap year, I'd say, especially when I was at Confetti and a lot of my peers were going to university and applying for that, and I really wasn't ready for that. So I felt like I had to, but I would really recommend a gap year. I think it really helps. And it doesn't have to be, I know people go on gap years and they go to around the world on a big trip and it costs lots of money, but it doesn't have to be that. I think like a gap year staying at home really helps. But the advice for a gap year is it's not a gap year sitting in bed on your phone, which it was for the first month for me. And then afterwards, you really do need to put in a lot of work because it is all you. But I think it's helped with my confidence so much because before I did a gap year, I wouldn't be able to stand here and talk to you guys. So it's really good. Yeah, it's just good practice.
And you kind of get a break. I'm technically on a gap year. I'm technically on a year-long course, but it's technically a gap year, and I'm glad I delayed university because that rush of not knowing what you want to do. I mean, I'm doing an art course, which made me realise I want to do film, not painting, but you can do that through film. There might, if you think, I want to be a DOP, or I want to do sound, you can have that year to clarify that for you. If you're going to spend thousands on a degree, you don't have to do a degree. It's really not essential. If you're going to spend thousands on a degree, give yourself the extra time to think about it. You're not behind anyone in any sort of way. If you go to creative universities or on a creative course, most of them probably will have taken a gap year, is what I would say.
Yeah, just to echo that, I know this is a bit hypocritical because I did go to a university, but it's really not essential. I know we're in a formal education space, but you don't need to go to university at all. Like, I've not gained anything. Everything that I'd say is like highlights of my career so far were on my gap year, and university has been really good to like meet even more people. But it's just been top ups of things that I'd already done on my gap year. So I'd say, if you can go for it, just do your gap year and then see if you can do 2 gap years and then 3 and 4.
Yeah.
Right, everyone, let's give Betsy and Charlie a huge round of applause. Thank you, guys. Are you guys all right to hang around just for a little bit for people to come and talk to you if they want to? Or no pressure, but
Yeah, feel free to come and talk to us afterwards.
Yeah.
Or also, please do, if you have any more questions or you just want to talk or if you want to work on a film or something, I don't know. We don't have any, we're not making anything at the moment, but if you message us and say, like we said earlier, like send us what films you've done, and we can, like we said earlier, we might not know the answer to the question, but we'll know who to put you in contact with.
Yes.
So please do message or email us.
Fantastic, thank you.
Yes.
Remember, if you tag any pictures you've got with IW23, there's also cash prizes available. So that's another reason to do it. So get some pictures with Charlie and Betsy, maybe.
And tag lounge trip.
Tag lounge trip.
Please.
It's a secret. I don't know, but it'll be revealed.
I heard £50.